Okay, this is your help video for your Chapter 2 and 3 lab, which you're going to be using Excel for. And Excel does a lot for you, just as much and maybe even more than the calculator. It takes some getting used to, but as you get used to using Excel throughout the semester, it'll get easier. um, Numbers on a Mac is pretty similar to this, and I'm not sure what version I'm using, but you'll be able to find all the different pieces if you pay attention to the subheadings. You might want to, take some notes, that way when you go back later that you can find what you're looking for. For your lab, we're going to be creating a frequency chart and a relative frequency chart, basically. Create a histogram so that we can look at the distribution. We're going to find our measures of center and variation. And we're going to create a box plot, and that part is already set up for you. Creating a box plot is a big nightmare on Excel, so we're basically just be entering the data so the box plot will pop up. We're going to be looking at FICO scores. A FICO score is a credit rating. So this company, this Fair Isaac Corporation, developed this algorithm. There's 5 parameters that they look at, like how much, how much credit you're using, how much money you make, a couple of different things, and then they crunch it down into a number, which is called the credit score. And the better the credit score, the higher it is, then the better your credit worthiness, meaning more likely is that you're going to pay back the money if we lend it to you. So if you get a credit report from like Experian, Equifax, there's another one, I think Trans Trans something, I forget. You often see that credit score on there. Lowest is a 300, highest is an 850. Most people will be showing that 650 and 800, which seems like a relatively large range. Or to me, actually, it seems like a small range for so many people to fall into, but there's actually it's actually pretty spread out. The numbers have changed over the years. I think the highest it used to be an 800, maybe a 750. Not only do credit card companies use the FICO score, but also car insurance. Sometimes we'll look up your credit rating because if you're a high credit risk, then you might be a high insurance risk. I only have 44 numbers up here. You're going to have 100. It really isn't going to change the procedure at all. I just got tired of making up more random numbers, so here's the numbers we have. These numbers are going to show up on every tab that you have down at the bottom, and there were 4 tabs total. On the frequency chart and histogram page, you see that I have the class boundaries set up for you, the lower limits and the upper limits. We have a frequency column, a relative frequency column, and then we have the data list that's going to be listed in there. Again, I only have 44. You're going to have 100. We could count these by hand and put these in here, but that's not going to be a lot of fun, especially with 100 numbers. So what we're going to do is we're going to click inside this frequency box. I'm going to type equal FRQEQ, and you see how this frequency pops up? Double click on that, and it's going to say, all right, what's the data array? So this is all the data that you're going to organize. And so you're going to go over to your data list and click on the first one, hold down the click, and drag down. And for the 100, you just keep dragging. It will scroll down the page. Let go, and you see that it's in here. So from F2 to F45, so you'll have F2 to F102, or maybe 101 of numbers. Hit comma, and now we got to hit the bins. The bins are the upper limits that you're going to use. So it's going to say, all right, what are you less than? And then go from there. So click on here. Oh, actually, click on the bottom and go up. And you'll see that pop up. Oh, it disappeared. Shoot. Let's do it again. Frequency. Click in here. Equal to FRQ. Double click that. Highlight this. Comma. From here up. Let go. And you see how it's in there. Close your parentheses and hit enter. And so I have one that's between 300 and 349. So we don't need to type that every single time. What you're going to do is click on there, on that C2, and see how it's got like a thick cross. Go to the corner, and it goes to a skinny cross. Click, left click, and hold it, and then drag down, and it's going to fill it down. Now the problem we have here is that it does a cumulative frequency. We don't want a cumulative frequency. We want it to be a a non-cumulative frequency, right? We just want to see what's in that range. So we got to do this fancy procedure. You got to hit with your left hand, hold down F2 and Control. With your right hand, hit Shift, and then when you hit Enter, it'll change. So there we go. And then you'll have all the frequencies for each one. We have, I thought 44. Yep, 44. That's an auto sum feature. So I have one between this range, one between this range, one between this range. To change the relative frequency, now I can type in my calculator 1 over 44, 2 over 44. I can do that over and over again, or I can say, let this be equal to this number divided by 44, and hit Enter. And again, I don't need to type it over and over again. If I click on that first one, go to the corner where it changes, and then go drag down, it will change it to like this. You want it to be a percent, click percent. Done. Isn't that nice? So much easier than going into the calculator. All right, so now we got all that stuff. We want to make a histogram. To make a histogram, you're going to have to go up to Insert, Column, and then pick the first one. And so this is going to pop up. I'm going to move it into here. No data in there, so right-click on the graph and hit Select Data. So we are going to see this blank series. We need to edit that. This is going to be our Y, our up and our down through here. And so that is our frequency, which I keep spelling wrong. And then the data, you're going to highlight all of that and hit backspace to get rid of it. And then go over here and select this so that it goes up. Hit OK. Don't freak out yet. Come over here now, and we got to edit this. These are our either your lower limit or your upper limit. I like to use the lower limits, but whatever you want to use is fine. Hit that. And we actually don't want it to just say that. We want it to say this. And there we go. And we say OK. And there we go. So kind of looks like a histogram except the bars aren't together. I don't have a problem with the bars not being together. This is actually called a bar graph and not a histogram. If it bothers you that it doesn't look the way it's supposed to look, click on a bar, and you see how the bars have these little handles on the side. Right click, and then say Format Data Series. See how it says gap, no gap, and then we're going to change the fill. Actually, we're going to change the border color to a solid line. And then you pick your favorite color. I'll pick black one on. So that way we can see where the bars are and it doesn't just look like one blob. When you get close, it's like magic. There you go. So there's your chart. What does this look like to you? Well, it looks pretty awful. I guess I would say mostly uniform. Because if through here we just got a couple of spikes, sometimes it's hard to tell. Yours will hopefully look a little bit nicer. I think if I remember correctly, it did look a little bit better, that you had a little bit of a better description. Alright, so that page is done. Measures of center and variation. Here's my data again, and you'll have the same data, it's just going to have a little bit more. This is going to be a little bit easier. I want to find the average. I'm going to click in the box next to it and hit equal sign, A, V, and you see how it pops up. Average, double click, and then just highlight all of these. And when you hit enter, you'll get your average. Median, go figure, equal, you go M-E, okay, and there it goes, median. Double click, highlight it, enter. So go figure for mode, hit equal, M-O, and it will pop up. Highlight it, enter. Not so bad, right? All right. Same idea for min and max, and for this, and I'll talk about the standard deviation for a minute. Quarter 1 and the quarter 3 are going to be percentiles. So it's a little bit different. Hit equal, P-E, okay, see percentile. Click on that. Now you got to click the array, and then you got, okay, well, that's fine. Then you got to pick what percentile you want it to be as a decimal. So the first quarter is a 25%, which is 0.25. I'll close my parentheses and hit enter, and there we go. My percentile for quarter 3 for this data, well, the third percentile is a 75%, so as a decimal, that's 0.75. Hit enter, and there we go. Min and max equal MIN, the min number. Highlight it, hit enter. And now we'll do the same thing for the max. Max number, highlight, and it gives you the maximum. Standard deviation. There's a couple of different standard deviations, as you know, right? We got for a population, we have for a sample. When you click on here and hit enter and you hit STD, well, actually, even before you get to the D, you see you got a couple of different options here. You want to use the standard deviation with the P, even though this is not a population. I think it's just not worded well. This was the one that when I took the time to put all the numbers in that you had into the calculator and run it, this was the one that was the closest. That's a big standard deviation. Yours is a little bit, it'll be a little bit smaller. And you'll see that for the other one, that's just standard deviation. It's pretty close. I mean, it's not a real deal breaker. So it should be about the same for each one because it's just that one number difference in your denominator. So now that's all in. Now it says here, before you go to the next page, pick your favorite column and you'll have 10 groups of 10 to choose from. I'm going to pick this guy. Highlight it and hit Control C or right click it and copy it. Come over to the box plot page. Scroll down, you're going to have this yellow region down here. Highlight in there and then paste the number in there. And you will see your box plot pop up. This is for the population, so here's the box plot. I don't know why I can never say that word. That represents all the numbers, and for the one that you do will be 100. For here, this is going to be just what I chose. It would find the min and the max for everybody again, and an interquartile range that we will talk about and what that means, and we'll identify any outliers. And apparently my group has 2 outliers for the low one, where my population for that one doesn't. So what changed? Why do you think they changed? Why do you think these differences exist? So this question is a little more open. I don't want to say that there's right and wrong answers for this. There's just ones that make sense and ones that don't. You know, to say, and I want a little bit more than, well, it's different numbers. Well, I know it's different numbers, so you got to give me a little bit more than that. So then that's your last page that you'll need to do. So just save it someplace. It may give you a like a box that pops up that says you might lose some features. It'll be fine. Just hit continue. It'll be all right. And then you just send it in through a Moodle. And that is how you're going to go through your chapters 2 and 3 lab.